everyone, this is CJ with Cycletron. Today we're going to check out some Indian motorcycles. A lot of you have left comments about some experiences you've had at some Harley dealerships or just looking at other options for your twin cylinder bikes. So here we are today. I'm going to put together an overview of what Indian has to offer. So let's get started. So the purpose of this video is to provide a broad overview of the Indian motorcycle lineup. If you want to get into the details of any given model, there's plenty of detailed reviews available online. Personally, I wanted to get more familiar with these bikes myself and then to share with you what I learned. So before I get into the details, if you like the type and breadth of motorcycle content that I've been generating, please like and subscribe, and please leave a comment below on any thoughts or suggestions you might have for future videos. So let's start with an overview of the Indian motorcycle brand. Of course, the original Indian brand was around from 1901 to 1953 and was located in Springfield, Massachusetts. Back in the day, there was quite a rivalry between Indian and Harley Davidson. But after the closure of the operation in 1953, there were various periods where someone brought the rights to the name and tried to make a go at manufacturing new bikes. Indian Motorcycles is currently owned by Polaris. Polaris bought the rights to the name in 2011, and their first model offered for sale was the Indian Chieftain in 2013. Polaris produces a wide range of power sport motorcycles, and before acquiring the rights to the Indian name, they produced Victory motorcycles from 1998 to 2017. A lot of people really like the Victory bikes, but clearly not enough people bought them to make the operation very profitable, particularly in the later years. I think they lost money 3 of the last 5 years they operated. So Polaris shut Victory down in January of 2017 to help focus their efforts on growing the Indian brand. But today you can see some of the features that were incorporated in the Victory motorcycles, like liquid cooling and, frankly, in my opinion, more modern styling, coming back in models like the Scout, the FTR, and the Challenger Indian motorcycle models. To me, those particular bikes are the most appealing in the Indian lineup. I think the other bikes are definitely up to individual taste, given the more retro styling, when compared to the Harleys. But again, that's up to the individual person. So here I am at Ride Now in Olathe, Kansas. They were nice enough to let me come in, look around, ask them a bunch of questions. This particular dealer carries Indian motorcycles as well as Triumph motorcycles. Now, if you go to the Indian website, their categories or their divisions of motorcycles don't make that much sense to me, quite honestly, but somewhat arbitrary. But let's go through it. As I mentioned earlier, you have the Scout, the FTR, and then the Challenger I want to get to in more detail. But the Scout motorcycle, you've got a range of bikes, MSRP from $9,000 to $12,000. You've got the Scout Bobber 60, that's 61 cubic inch engine at 78 horsepower, and then you've got the Scout 60. Again, that's another 61 cubic engine, and then all the other Scouts are 69 cubic inches at 100 horsepower. All the Indian motorcycles are belt drive, with the exception of the chain drive FTRs. But I think these Scouts look really nice. Here's a close-up of a Scout Bobber that was parked outside. I think this is a special orange color on this one. Looks really, really nice. And then I mentioned the FTR has the flat track styling. Beautiful bike in my view. The FTR comes in 3 models, the 1200, the Rally, and the 1200S. And then we get into, and then the FTR, that comes with a 73 cubic inch engine with 123 horsepower and 87 foot-pounds of torque. Very exciting bike. Then they got their cruiser category, and in their cruiser category they identify the Indian Vintage and the Indian Vintage Dark Horse. Those are 111 cubic inch engine, what they refer to as their Thunderstroke engine. And you can see pretty heavy retro styling. There's lots and lots of Indian head logos on this bike, so some people love that, others not so much. But again, it's up to individual taste. And then, of course, you have the baggers. You have the Indian Springfield, the Chieftain, and the Challenger. Now, in these 2021 models, everything that's not a base model has the 116 cubic inch engine, the Thunderstroke engine, and then the base model of the Springfield and the Chieftain have the 111 cubic inch engine. Now, these bikes are all air-cooled engines except for the Challenger. The Challenger is a 108 cubic inch liquid-cooled engine. And then we get into the touring segment with the Roadmaster and well, they got different versions, the Dark Horse and the Elite. And the Dark Horse is just different finishes, and of course the Elite is more bells and whistles as far as features on the bike. These bikes all have everything with a fairing has the ride command, which, except for the base models, again, in the Chieftain and in the Challenger, the ride command includes all the navigation and the tire pressure monitoring system, whereas the nav and the TPMS is not included on the base models of the Chieftain and the Challenger. But this is just to give a broad overview. I guess the bike that excites me the most is this new Challenger that was new in 2020. Now the thing about Polaris is they don't release detailed sales figures for their bikes, unlike Harley Davidson. We know Harley Davidson last year sold about 220,000 motorcycles worldwide. Sounds like they're going to come in under 200,000 this year, maybe somewhere around 190 for U.S. and international sales combined. Best I can figure out, as far as the street models, the Indian motorcycles from Polaris, I would guess that they sell somewhere around 30,000 motorcycles a year. Clearly a small fraction of what Harley sells. So if you see 6 heavyweight twin bikes out on the road, 5 of them are probably going to be Harleys if you exclude the other brands like Honda and BMW. But by all accounts, Indian sales are growing each year, and Harley sales are going down. Now, this Challenger motorcycle has gotten a lot of favorable press. The Battle of the Bagger event, the race that was at Laguna Seca a couple months ago, the Indian Challenger won that event pretty convincingly. And then in the last print issue of Cycle World named the Challenger its 2020 Bagger of the Year. So the consensus really seems to be with the Indian motorcycles is that they tend to have more features and nicer features for the money compared to, say, a given Harley Davidson. I think Indian motorcycles have been known for their excellent nav systems for many years, and I think that's what spurred Harley Davidson to pretty quickly upgrade their navigation system, their infotainment system on their touring bikes. So I think the competition is definitely a good thing. Of course, there's been a long-standing rivalry between Indian and Harley Davidson. I don't think that's really valid anymore. I mean, it's a completely different company. They bought the name. I don't think you can really buy a legacy when that company doesn't exist anymore, but it's a cool name, a cool logo, and certainly a very viable and capable manufacturing company in Polaris. So for me, I don't really get hung up on particular brands of motorcycles. I look more at the particular model, and if I like it, I'm inclined to get it. So a few years ago, while I was in the market for a big touring bike, I picked my Harley Street Glide Special because I thought it was more modern looking than the Indian offerings. That style really didn't appeal to me, although I had friends that the Indian styling on those big touring bikes definitely appealed to them. But had the Challenger been around in 2019, I could quite well have gone that way. I mean, this looks like a fantastic motorcycle. Now, when this bike first came out earlier in 2020, there were a handful of reliability issues. Something with lubricating power shaft out of the engine, or it didn't get properly lubricated. But Harley Davidson had their share of issues with the M8 engine when it first came out, with the sumping issue, and then the issue with the brakes, the corrosion issue on the brakes. So every manufacturer has their issues, particularly with first year models. So just my gut feel is that the reliability comparing between the two manufacturers is probably pretty comparable. I think what you run into with Indian is there's probably about 400 dealers worldwide versus maybe 12 or 1,300 Harley dealerships worldwide. And as the salesman I was talking to put it, average big city in the United States has probably 3 Harley dealers at least, and you may have only 1 Indian dealer. And on average, those Indian dealerships are spread out 2 or 3 hours drive apart from each other. So it's just, again, up to individual taste. I think when the Challenger model had those early issues, by all accounts Polaris was all over it and handled things very quickly. So again, it's just up to individual taste. I'd be also interested if any of you have gone into an Indian dealership and either bought a motorcycle or got pretty serious in negotiations, how that experience went with you. I've posted a number of videos about some experiences I've had, good and bad, at various Harley dealerships in my area. So I think Indian, it's easier, I think, to be nimble and a little bit more responsive if you're a smaller company than if you're a much larger company like Harley Davidson. So there's advantages to being small in some cases. So each company has its advantages and disadvantages in terms of its customer service and the way it produces and supports their products. But again, I'd be interested in what you would think about this. Has any experience that you had at a Harley dealership or with a Harley motorcycle in general spurred you to look at other models, whether they're Indian or BMW or Honda, or are the Indian bikes just in and of themselves appealing enough to you that whether you had an experience, good or bad, with Harley, you would consider going that direction? So with that, I'll leave it for today, and please leave your comments down below. And again, please like and subscribe. Thanks very much.